Are there stocks, whether AI or tech stocks, that you wish you bought earlier? Like you were watching them grow, you were watching them rise, you didn't buy on time.
There is this energy company known as Irish Energy. It was my friend that told me about the company. I was watching that. I was watching the price of that company go high, higher and higher and higher. I did not do anything until when it went high. So
Oh man.
another one again that I regretted not buying earlier, even though I was aware of the company, was Palantir Technology. I could have
Oh, that's why
made,
you mentioned
yeah,
it.
I could have made a massive profit if I had opened a position at the time that I learned about Palantir Technology. So imagine like if you want to like invest in that company, what it will be doing to your mind. Because every time you wake up, it goes off.
You buy
Every
high
time
blood pressure
you
medication.
wake up.
If Google has a Google Finance platform that's totally dedicated to financial
Yeah,
analysis, so Gemini is plugged into that data. So it
yeah.
has even real-time data that it's giving you whenever you're asking, it's giving you fresh information. So Gemini has that advantage over ChatGPT. You've said it that you've grown since you bought Tesla. Did you buy it when SpaceX IPO'd? Hi, my name is Chika, and this is Synthesis and Script. I've enjoyed working on this and hope that you find these episodes as stimulating as I have, or even more. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Conversations on Tech and AI. Thank you so much for joining me on this call, Chisimdi. Today, I would like us to discuss tech and AI stocks, especially with regards to the ones you wish you bought earlier, the kind of things that inform your investment decisions as regards to tech and AI, and any tips and tricks you think anybody that's looking to start investing in tech stocks should have. First of all, let's start with your background. Let's know a little bit about your investment track record.
Thank you so much, Chika, for having me today. I feel honored. This is a rare privilege for me to share my wealth of experience with your viewers and
Oh,
thousands of millions of fans all over the world. Thank you so much for having me.
it,
Yeah.
it's in a million.
My name is Chisimdi Okoh. I am very passionate about democratizing personal finance in Nigeria and also West Africa. And as a result, I co-founded a platform known as the S&P Finance Club, where we have been at the forefront of this journey of democratizing personal finance, you know, engaging young people across different platforms and raising awareness about personal finance on how they can possess the financial journey towards becoming financially free. So,
Mm.
so this is something that have led me into writing a book where I've shared a bit of my journey, my personal finance journey, to
Mm.
young people, and to use the book as a tool to educate more young people about the importance of being in charge of their financial journey, or in charge of their finances. And beyond that, I'm also a data scientist, and over time, I've used my data analytics skills to analyze uh, some stocks, to find a point of entry that made me some few bucks.
I really like that you mentioned your data analytics skills because it's quite important to note that technical skills, technical expertise is important at some point. And given certain volumes of trades or investments, you need technical skills and a technical point of view to look at any company that you're invested in. I would like for you to share your investment origin story. How did you get into investment? What informed your decisions? How essentially did you move from somebody who was maybe saving money in a traditional bank to wanting to invest?
Uh, there's a something that I used to say that experience they say is the best teacher. Yeah, I don't really believe in that anyways, but it has actually informed some certain decisions, especially as it regards investing in the financial sector, right? Towards the 2017, 2018 was the peak. peak of the Ponzi scheme, the hype of Ponzi scheme, with a lot of people claiming to have made millions of naira from various Ponzi schemes. Well, there are people who have lost millions of naira in this Ponzi scheme, and I was one of them. So there was a joke my friend used to make at a time, and he was like, Chisimdi, this is not the right way to make money. Because now my friend used to wonder how some of these platforms, without creating real value, are able to give people 30% return in 1 month. Stay Chisimdi, you are aware of how much you are going to get if you invest with these people for 1 year? It's too much. Like,
That's over
it doesn't make
300%.
sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to him at the time. And we used to joke about it. So as somehow we understood that we're almost doomed from the very start. Like we are doomed from the very start. Because you are talking about platforms, that are actually giving that level of yield to their investors without creating real value. So you're not seeing any real value that these platforms are creating, but you are seeing them pay out 30% every month to their investors. So it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't
Yeah,
make
which
sense,
is
to be
not
honest.
even feasible for a traditional company because their margins are usually very tight, sometimes less than 50% in profit. So how do they make profits to reinvest in the business, talk more again
Exactly.
to investors? So these
Exactly.
are markers for businesses that are not feasible, that people should not be putting their money into.
Exactly. So having learned the hard way, I had to start telling myself that choosing this time for you to just sit down and learn the basic of personal finance. You need to understand money, and you also need to understand your behavior towards money. And that was how I started using the first point of approach towards learning about money and personal finance is personal based approach, where you have to invest time in reading or studying resources, books, and even in present time, there is a lot of resources on the YouTube that you can learn, that is self-explanatory, that can teach you on how you can evolve in your personal finance journey. And then we switch over to the community-based approach. That's where you have to get involved in communities. There's a lot of financial communities that you can follow even on social media. You have the Money Market Africa, the Money Market Africa platform. And also you have the S&P Finance platform, because remember I told
Yes,
you that these are the things that led us towards co-founding that platform. So we have
yes,
learned from this experience that this is not the right way. We now need to share these experiences to young people and teach them the right way to learn about their personal finance and take possession of their personal finance journey, and not be liking towards investing in Ponzi schemes and losing their money at the end of the day. So that
yeah.
was the biggest motivation at the time towards investing.
Okay. I like that you mentioned communities because it's important for people to be with like-minded people who have the same kind of goals, who have made mistakes that they shouldn't be making. So when you're in those kind of environments, you learn by association and you also avoid mistakes that people who have gone ahead of you had made. What was the first stock you got?
A
And
very
why did you buy
interesting one.
it? Yeah.
Thank you so much for this question. The first stock I bought was Tesla.
Hmm.
Tesla. Yeah. So, the thing, it wasn't something that I bought. I wouldn't say that I made an informed decision, right? I
Um,
didn't make any informed decision. I just bought it because I found the founder of Tesla, the CEO of Tesla, quite an interesting and alluring person, Elon Musk.
mhm.
Yeah.
Elon Musk
So,
fan.
yeah. So he was almost like everywhere on social media, talking about his plans, his future plans of automation. So the only thing I assumed at the time that Tesla was a car company. That's the only thing I assumed at the time. It was a car company. And then when you check out the picture of some of their car and automobile designs on Google, you will see something amazing and quite intriguing. It's almost
Mm.
like a wishful dreams that you want to own this car one day. You understand?
Mm.
So a means of getting to own this car one day is also getting to own a share of this company. So,
Okay.
and then where the magic happened is that at a time towards 2019, 2020 was the time the fintech sector was beginning to gain a little bit of attention in Nigeria. And then there was this particular fintech company, Bamboo. that created a tech-enabled platform that helps people in Nigeria to have access to US stock market. So it's like bringing this thing home, that with your phone in your hand, you can buy shares in the US stock market. So it was quite very interesting and easy thing to do. You can imagine the level of bureaucracy or bottleneck that was involved before now in buying some of these shares. They cut it off by 101%, if I am exaggerating. So 101%. So it was easy.
You're not exaggerating.
So having Tesla in mind and knowing about Bamboo, so the next big move was, I invested about $50, in Tesla. Uh, that's the beginning of the journey,
What was the market price for Tesla at this point?
As at today.
No, at then when you bought.
At then it wasn't up to $100. I can't remember specifically, but it wasn't up to $100 at that time. And I remember over time they went through stock splits, and then the stock started all over. The stock got to a point where it was $700 something $700 per share. And then it went to over $800 and something per share. And before they had stock splits, and it went down again, and it started going up again. So there's a lot that has happened within this number of years. So it was a good investment from my own perspective.
Have you sold?
Of course,
ever?
Yes. Yes.
We'll get to where you sold, but I wanted to ask you, when you were mentioning that you bought Tesla because it's a car company and you love their designs, why not Mercedes? Yeah, because that's unusual. Why not Mercedes?
Of course, like I told you, it was almost all about their CEO, Elon Musk.
It was more about Elon Musk.
When you look around at a time, motivational speakers are talking about the Elon Musk story, the risk taker, and then the way the man talk about the future, the way the man actually sells to gain attention. He uses
So
attention
much
to his
confidence.
advantage. Yeah. So it was a very interesting thing, because I think right now there's a lot of CEOs that are actually engaging on social media, selling their business more than the marketers. A good example is Tony Elumelu, the way he sells the UBA brand and a lot of brand that he represents. So he embodied, Elon Musk embodied that kind of CEO, that when you see him, you already know the brand that he represents without even saying word. If you go through his Twitter page or now X, you will see all the businesses and brand that he represents. That was that kind of CEO. So buying into the company is like buying into the CEO because you admire the CEO. That was it for me. It wasn't more about doing analysis, fundamental analysis, studying the business and all
It was
whatnot.
more of a sentimental buy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I also like that you mentioned the Elon Musk effect, where he started encouraging, or his being or his way of representing his businesses started making more CEOs interact more with their users. Because I think before, I'm not very sure now, but I think what it used to be like was the CEOs were more like the back end people. They didn't want to interface with people online, or they didn't want to be seen as a huge or the face of their business. They had other people being the face of their businesses. But a lot of that has changed over the years. I wanted to expatiate on the conversation from the part of how fintechs like Bamboo have democratized investing for Nigerians. I remember my first trying to invest experience. I was in uni at this time. I had gotten a scholarship, and the money wasn't even up to 200K at the time, but it was a big money to me. And I'd read all these books just like you. Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they encourage you to put something aside, and it's something you're putting aside shouldn't just be in savings, you should invest. And I wanted to invest, and I didn't know where to start from. So the normal thing or the logical thing for me to do was to go to my bank and ask them, because in these books, banks were supposed to help you. I went to the bank and I asked the customer care rep what I could do, what steps I could make to start my investment journey. And this lady just asked me, do you have 1 million naira? She didn't even look up from her screen. I don't know, maybe she thought I was too small. I wasn't her target audience, obviously. And I told her that I didn't have 1 million naira. She was like, there's nothing I can do for you. She told me off. And before I left the the banking hall, one of their marketers walked up to me and sold me. He didn't even just try, he sold me on a high investment yield savings account, just 3.5%. And at the time, I just thought that these percentages were monthly, not annually. And I gave him my money. I put my money in the savings account. And at the end of the month, I was seeing 100 naira, 100 and something there. I was abysmally disappointed. That was not what I was going for. And that was how I fell for a Ponzi scheme. Just like you two, somebody offered me 30% monthly. And every alarm bell that was supposed to go off in my head was going off. But I just, somehow I justified that expense and I lost my money as well. So now, I think around 2016 was when Bamboo came into the market. And since then, Bamboo, Piggyvest, all of these investment platforms have made it easy for Nigerians to invest, not just in the Nigerian economy, but also in the US stock market, which is something that's commendable. And they have driven down the costs for your initial capital. That's if somebody with 10,000 naira now can start their investment journey. As far as you have up to $10 to $20, you can start your investment journey. So that's quite commendable. We've come a long way in Nigeria and investing as a whole. And I also like that outside of these investment platforms, there are investment communities pointing people to the paths, the ways that they should look at companies before they throw in their money. So now I also want to bring it back to you being an Elon Musk fanboy, fan person. Since you bought Tesla, I know you've grown. You've said it that you've grown since you bought Tesla. Did you buy when SpaceX IPO'd?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Why didn't you?
Yeah, it's because at a time there was so much hype around it, right? My investment platform sent me an email asking if I would like to subscribe, right? Yeah, it was very interesting. It's an opportunity to make a quick bucks in a short term. Remember, in a short term. Yeah, because of so much hype that it generates. If you look at the record, they had over 1.6 million retail subscribers, retail investors, 1.6 million. About that, it could be more right now.
That's
And
before they went public.
No. After they went public. After they went public.
Okay.
Yeah. So they had about 1.6 million, which means there's a lot of hype around the company. So it had made the stock to be highly volatile. So a lot of people are pumping in their money without awareness that this usually happens when a company that is highly volatile goes public. So it generates a lot of hype and people just go in. And once they're going, the institutional investors and the big guys begin to lock their profit. So when they start taking their profit, the market has a way of correcting the price. So for some of us, we decided to wait until the market corrects itself. Because if we look at what the stock has done between yesterday and today, it has done close to 7% or 9%. And then within the time
And
that
that's
it
not
has done,
normal.
yes, and within the time it has gone public and now it has done close to 20%, if not more, as I speak with you. So there's a way the market is going to correct itself. So we are waiting for the market to correct itself. But looking at it critically, yeah, in a short term, it doesn't look to me like a good investment move, right? Because what people are buying are the promises of the future. Because if you look at the company, whether the company is profitable now, they are not profitable now. And I'm not sure the company is going to be profitable in the next 1 year or 2 years. But we are buying promises of future space travel. The promises that the big Elon Musk guy is making. Yeah, that's what people are buying into. That's what investors are buying into. So they are like selling that feature where if you want to own the feature of space travel, this is the right company to invest in.
When you mentioned that the share is or the company is volatile, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. What did you mean by it being volatile?
Volatility is the ease at which a company's share price can go up and down the trail.
Is this a normal thing for companies that went public initially? Like it's riding on the hype and everybody wanting a piece of the cake. Is it something that's normal?
Yeah, it's not really something that is normal for IPOs because there are most IPOs that you never actually heard about,
Are
you
you
know.
serious? There are IPOs that are never public.
No, it's not like they are never public that many people don't know about. Like so many
Okay,
people
that
don't know
never
about.
hyped up so
Uh,
much.
so many retail investors don't even have an idea about, just like, can you imagine the first time Palantir went public? How many people know about Palantir? How many?
Mm.
If you can imagine. But then look at where Palantir is as of today. Do you understand?
So do you think
But
it's from a lack of them wanting people to know about what they're selling, or just general public lethargy towards such kind of companies?
if you know Elon Musk and what he represents, yeah, you will see that he
No, but
has,
but it's not an Elon Musk thing only. I remember last year when this Figma went public as well. There was a whole hype around Figma. It was the same. It's usually the same for companies, especially tech companies and AI enabled companies as well.
yeah, is the same for AI enabled companies, but not similar, you know, when it comes to the type of hype that SpaceX generated.
Mm,
So sometimes when you are looking at some of these companies, you are looking at it towards the CEOs, the owners, the founders, and the kind of community they command. So
mm,
when you command a massive community and you make a post about your little baby going public,
mm,
everybody's going to start reacting. The whole investment space is going to start reacting to that particular post. And then this is now coming from someone who has proven to define all odds. Like all the odds that are thrown against him, he has proven to define all odds that are thrown against him. So you could imagine what investors will be thinking that, look at what Tesla has done. Look at how much money Tesla has made for people. So if I lock in on time, I'll be able to become millionaires or multimillionaires in the next 5, 10
mm.
years. Do you
So he's
understand?
the
So
perfect motivational story. And now he's a
exactly,
trillionaire, the only
exactly.
trillionaire in
Yeah.
earth.
So he has something to show for it. So there are a lot of things that drive market perception, the way investors see a particular business. It is not just limited to how profitable the business is.
Mm,
So it's also on how the face of the business, which is the management, the leadership, sell the business, or the quality of the
yes.
leadership as well. Do you understand?
Mm,
So if you
yes.
come to Nigerian story, look at the Tony Lumelu and his moves. Everywhere he moves becomes a bit popular. He can turn unpopular stock into a popular stock just because he moved there.
Yeah.
From
Mm,
UBA to Transcorp and from Transcorp now to Sepla. I think it's now in Sepla, yeah?
Seplar. Yes,
So you
yes.
can
I
you
heard
can
of
see all the
Seplar.
moves, how everywhere that he moves because darling, because he has a
Yeah, his
proven track
charisma.
record. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, when you were talking about valuable companies or diamonds in the rough like Palantir, going public and the public not exactly buying into it as much as people bought into stocks like Figma and SpaceX. What positioning can people have to be able to buy into this kind of valuable companies? Do you just have to have an interest or be following a particular industry to know when companies in the private companies in those industries want to go public? How do you position yourself to be able to know that a certain valuable company is going that's not overhyped essentially?
Anyways, there are people who study the market, because all of us are
Mm,
actually busy. You know, there are people who their job is to study the market. They wake up every in the morning, studying the market, studying businesses, making key recommendations to investors. They have access to grade A information surrounding the market.
mm,
There are
mm.
platforms. You must have heard about monthly pool or pool.
Motley
Yeah,
Fool, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So if you subscribe to some of these their newsletters, because you have to pay to be able to get some of
Mm,
their newsletters. You have to pay to be able to
mm,
to get information around some certain businesses that wants to go public. You'll be
yeah,
getting those information firsthand before many other people that didn't subscribe to their newsletter get it. And that you can begin to explore by doing your research, explore the opportunities. But it is difficult to believe in something when the road or the path is not entirely clear. The people who
Yeah.
have the knack to believe in that particular thing, not up to 2% of the entire world population, right?
Mm.
Let's take, for instance, you started a YouTube platform where you have about 2 subscribers, and then you go to pitch to a friend that you want, this is what you intend to achieve. This is how you intend to grow the company in the next 5 years from 2 subscribers to over 500 subscribers. It will be very difficult for that your friend to believe in you. The people who do this thing are not up to 2% of the world population. So
Mm.
despite the opportunity that is maybe looking in their face, they might be like, how is Chika able to grow these subscribers from 2 to 5 years? How? Right? So they might not be able to invest in it.
Mm.
But it doesn't mean that I will not invest in you in the future, because there are
Mm.
people who invest in you or in your business at different levels of that business along the way.
Mm.
Right? There are people who believes and invest from start. It's just like people that used to say, if you have invested in NVIDIA 20 years ago, you would have been a millionaire. Not many people would have invested, even if you take them back,
Exactly. They wouldn't have
take a
seen
walk
the
in time, they will not
vision.
be able to
Yeah,
invest
even with
because
crypto, buy Bitcoin.
yeah, because it is difficult to look into those visions, the vision where you see so many disappointments. And then that at that stage, disappointment feel like disappointment. Maybe if Nvidia have a loss of maybe 50 billion, it won't feel as much of disappointment. But if they had at that time lost $5,000, it feels like a very heavy disappointment. You will begin to
Mm.
consider your investment. So the question is, do you have the faith to believe in your conviction about a particular business?
Mm.
Because just because a business is into AI or data infrastructure does not mean the business will survive the future.
Yes,
Right?
yes. Not
Does
all
not mean
businesses
some of them might
infrastructure
get
survive.
engulfed by the future.
Yeah.
There are businesses that have survived the test of time, like Amazon. Amazon. The dot-com bubble, yeah, and the crash that happened. So many businesses disappeared into thin air, but some other businesses survived over a long period of time.
Mm.
Can we talk about during the introduction of smartphones? You know about BlackBerry phones, yeah? Where is BlackBerry
Mm.
phones
Yeah.
today? So,
Not all
so
businesses
it's
survive.
not that easy to actually subscribe to that business and stay through for a very lengthy time to be able to lock in some money.
Mm. Okay, I like that the conversation is going towards being able to raise funds before going public as a private business, because this is essentially what private companies, the owners of these businesses, founders do. They pitch to funders, whether it's angel investors or venture capitalists, to be able to invest in their business before we, the public, are able to invest when they go public. And since SpaceX IPO'd, that it went public, I saw a lot of sentiments online or people saying, don't buy SpaceX. You're trying to make Elon Musk a trillionaire. You're trying to add money to somebody that already has a lot of money. Because we saw the post on all his over 4,000 employees, initial employees, becoming millionaires, dollar millionaires. And people were saying those that initially invested, the venture capitalists, the angel investors that invested before the company even did all the other rounds of funding, that they are the ones that cashed out big time before we, now that we're literally just taking the breadcrumbs, and it will be more profitable for you to use your money and start a business or invest in your career and just blow on your own than going to buy into these companies. What do you think about, what do you have to say about such sentiments?
The sentiment is always there for people to make money. So
Mm.
there have to be people with the sentiment. But a wise man once told me, Chisimdi, it's important to develop all sectors simultaneously. So what
Please say
he
that
meant
again. It's important to.
is to develop all sectors simultaneously, all the sector of your life simultaneously. So
Mm.
link it to investment here. Some of the people that build sentiment about a particular investment have little knowledge about investment space or how investment
Mm.
space operates, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they are looking at a one size that fits all kind of strategy. You know,
Mm.
whether you are investing in businesses, you are buying shares, you are investing in fixed income instruments, you are starting your business. All of these things are investment journey. Yes, you can do one after the other, but you can still do all of them at the same time.
At the same time,
So
yes.
if you still have the mindset of gambling when you are investing, I don't think you are investing. That's why you have to do your due diligence, do your research. And when you do your research and you are convinced personally, not as a result of Chika's conviction, you are convinced personally, then you can take on that journey, right? So there's always people that are going to make money from anything. If I
Yeah.
start a business and I engage few of my friends that brought in capital into the business and they take a position, get a percentage share of the business, and we grow the business to a time that it goes public. Remember, at the time that we invested our time and money into this business, there was no possibility of making money.
Yeah, it was a
Is a
very high
high
risk.
is a high risk investment. And at some point, so many things must have gone wrong. So many people must have come to say, Chisimdi, I want my money back, please. I'm tired.
It's true.
Right? And then people hold it for 10 years. 10 years. And then finally the business went public. Because every every tech-enabled company right now, what they do sometimes is to add shares as a pay package of their employee. Sometimes to
Yes.
subsidize the amount of money they pay their employee as cash at the end of the month or at
Yeah,
the end of
because
the
startups
year.
cannot afford to
Ye-
attract top talent with the money that they have.
Exactly. So they put shares forward. So if we're able to deliver this by the end of the year, these are the number of shares. We'll be sharing profit as shares to all of our employees. So that is their hope of sticking with that company and building something that many of us do not understand. Would you actually understand it when your friend tells you that he wants to build a space company?
Not in Nigeria, though. Not in Nigeria, though. If the person is a mad Swiss that have been building
So,
since they were small, they've started something, yeah, maybe.
So right now, if they made money from it by staying true to their position or to their faith and made money
Yes.
from it,
Yes.
some of us will be building sentiment. And then you are building sentiment and people, retail investors who are opening those positions right now are going to change their life in the next 5 or 10 years while you are still building sentiment. That by the time you arrive to the show, the stock has matured.
Mm. So how do you know a stock that has matured? I like this part now. How do you know a business that their stock or their share price has matured so much that anybody going in now, it's not really going to be, you know.
Is the blue chip companies, the businesses that have achieved a level of stability that their share price is is no longer volatile. So
You
what
think
they do is
you said that a company like Google is matured,
Google
like development company.
is as matured as well as a growing company. Yeah, is
So
as
a
matured.
company can be both.
A company can be both. So you can class Google as a growth stock as well as a matured stock as well. But you see the likes of Coca-Cola, they're already matured companies. They have been in existence for so many years that one of the major things that make investors to invest in Coca-Cola is because of their shares, the dividends they earn from the shares,
Yes.
because we class them as high dividend paying shares. So
Mm,
imagine Tesla, if you have invested in Tesla position in 2022, I'm not sure how many dividends you must have earned by now because their major focus is on how to grow the company instead of using the
yeah.
profit to pay their investors as
They're not doing
dividends.
profit sharing.
Yeah. So that is their major focus. So even if they are paying dividends, they are paying like 0.220 cents or 0.60 cents as dividends, because they are interested in using that money to invest in innovations, invest in
Mm,
research and development, invest in
mm,
expanding their data centers, invest in buying new products, buying existing businesses to build a business. That's why the only thing you are looking at is share price appreciation. Because when a
mm.
company is growing, their share price is also growing. So you wake up one day and then the money you invested, $220, is already $500. Look at Netflix before they did stock split. Look at
Mm.
it.
Okay, so
So
I
you
like that
see,
we're getting to this part. Um,
mm,
when the whole AI thing started, that's when ChatGPT made AI go mainstream, become public, that everybody now had AI at their um, fingertips. It was the word everybody was now mouthing, even though we'd had some form and class of AI previously, but ChatGPT made it go mainstream. And I believe that's 2022, around November. I was just thinking, how can I position myself or how can I buy into this future? Because I knew that AI was definitely going to go. Yes, even though we're at the early stages at that point, I wanted to have a share in this future that we were building. And my mindset was more of, who are the companies building the parts that fund this? I was not even thinking data centers. I didn't even know what data centers were. I was just thinking of the servers that train these AI models. And during my research, I got to know about NVIDIA. How was your own journey venturing into AI stocks?
well, interesting, yeah. The AI wave was a good opportunity for people to lock in some profit.
Mm,
Was a very good opportunity, right? Because at that time the wave was too much. I think everything is beginning to get to its peak, but it's beginning to unfold a whole new journey on its own. Like the more is we are driving to the peak, the more a whole new journey is beginning to unfold because
mm,
research is ongoing on a daily basis, right? I think
yes.
the first business, because I want to lay emphasis on something here. We don't invest in stocks here. What we invest is in business. Understanding this thing
Yes.
will solve a million problems for you as an investor. So you have to be looking at the business and not just share price appreciation. You have to looking at the business you want, especially when you are investing for a long time. You are
Mm,
not looking to ride the waves. You want to invest for a very long time. Then you really need to explore the business that you want to invest in. For instance, when Palantir technology was coming up, most people think Palantir technology is just a government contractor, you know,
mm,
because they had a lot of contracts with the US government. So they have probably
yes.
positioned their mind as is just a company that used to contract for the US government and or whatnot, right? But when you looked within some time, people started seeing that these people has an underlying AI effect. They are investing in AI products, data centers, and all of this kind of stuff. So it kind of made people to start pumping their money into the business. So for me, my first moves towards investing in as a result of the AI hype was NVIDIA. So
Oh,
yeah,
same, same.
yeah, it was NVIDIA. And why was NVIDIA very interesting? Yes, you talk about the chat GPT, you talk about all this AI company that you can use to do your research and all of this stuff. But other people were talking about the technology that was powering them. And that was
Yes.
where NVIDIA came in. So there is something that is powering them, right?
Mhm.
So if more
Yes.
people begin to depend on all these AI products, that's how the company that is powering them will be making more money. Because if more people are engaging with the AI products, right? That is the concept of the process of tokenization, right? So if more tokens are being utilized by the AIs or the chatbots, yeah, chatbots,
Mm,
you will see that you will need to improve on the technology that powers them. And that way, NVIDIA is somewhere sitting comfortably, locking in their profit,
mm,
right? So that was what made me to see, oh, NVIDIA is actually a good thing to invest in. So instead of trying to jump from one AI company to another, maybe it's time to ride with the king.
okay, yeah. At the time, Nvidia was essentially because they had built a big moat around their business, even before AI became a thing. Actually, they were just well positioned for the AI wave because they had been building GPUs that were good for a lot of heavy duty animation, gaming, what have you. And as luck would have it for them, their GPUs served well for AI purposes, training, inference, and all of that. And now it seems that their technology is getting outdated, or the AI needs have started running ahead of what NVIDIA can provide. And I know they are still making acquisitions to be able to be up to date and still be able to cater to their customers' needs. By their customers, I mean all these big AI companies. But they have a very big competition with Cerebras. Cerebras is a company that they made the biggest wafer scale. That's the biggest chip in history. And what they have changed that NVIDIA did not have was that they've been able to put the memory close to the computing. NVIDIA's chips take longer than Cerebras's chips to help AI come to the inference that it does. That's the intelligence part. When you type a prompt, the AI has to swallow the prompt in form of tokens. That's pieces of data from your prompt. And then think about it using this training data and then infer, which is the inference part, and then give you an output. So that process of thinking, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of compute for chips like NVIDIA's own. But Cerebras has tried to cut down on the time it takes for it to do the inference through the design of their chip. So now Cerebras is still fairly new compared to NVIDIA that has always been there, but they are kind of like chipping away at the NVIDIA business customers and NVIDIA's market size, because a lot of companies are finding out that the things that used to take them weeks, sometimes months, they're able to do it in days and hours with Cerebras's chips. And they're buying Cerebras's chips because they've started even outsourcing it as cloud products. There's something called inference as a service now. Like if you finish training your AI model and you want to put it to be more public facing, you rent Cerebras's spaces. That's online. You rent their cloud space to be able to do inference. And I when I was reading about this, it started making me think that as NVIDIA, I know that they'll still make more innovations. They'll probably redesign their chip and all of that. But is it time to start porting to newer, flashier startups? Because Cerebras has already IPO'd. It's already public. I'm sure you heard the story about the memory, the companies that are selling memory, companies like Sandisk, that was essentially just USB sticks to me as of last year. Before this year, I started hearing that Sandisk is doing over 500% in their shares. So memory has been a thing for this year. In fact, this whole year has been more about memory and trying to reduce compute time and making inference a service. What do you think about this shift? Is NVIDIA still the go-to? Still, because NVIDIA, till now, up to this point, NVIDIA is the most valuable company.
Yeah, I must say that you're well versed in this AI thing. Anyways, I'm happy to I'm happy to learn from your wealth of experience as well. Yeah, but
that's why I hold these conversations. I learn from people as well. And before I'm able to come here, I have to read a lot. I have to educate myself so that at least I'll be able to know what questions to ask. So doing these interviews also help me.
yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah. The competition actually exists for a reason, because competition helps to drive innovation.
Yes.
So that is why it is very, very important and key that those competitions are coming, and sometimes when a company is able to position themselves in future, some people see it as luck. It is not luck. Most times it's calculated positioning. Yeah, because they are already imagining what the future actually looks like and what the future is going to depend on. I'll give you an instance. When they started producing electric vehicle, right? Because remember, the old thing we used to have was filling station, where you go to the petrol stations to fill your tank, right? So people understood, some people understood in different cities understood that, oh, if people start buying electric cars, so where are they going to charge it? They have to be charging stations in different points, in different positions. So people started building their own charging stations where people come to charge for a
business
fee.
Opportunity.
So if we are talking about AI, if we are talking about all of these advancements, all of these challenges that AI companies are experiencing, businesses that are investing in innovation and research and development are also thinking, how do I position to be able to provide a solution for the problem that AI is going to create. Because of course they are going to create a problem. Yes, they are coming to enhance processes. Yes, they are coming to drive things faster than the way we used to do it. But at the end of the day, they will create problem. And there has to be a business that solves the problem. So
Yes.
NVIDIA, for instance, has evolved over a long period of time in the sector,
Mm,
right? And being with a company that are seeing now, as well as you evolving innovatively, to take a position in the future is what actually makes them dominant.
mm,
Do you understand? So I'm
mm,
sure that the same way you are aware of this company that is providing a competition to NVIDIA, NVIDIA is very much aware of this company. And then NVIDIA is
I'm
also
sure.
very much aware of the challenge, the lag time at which these AI systems responds to queries and all of those kind of stuff that you inferred, right? They are very much aware. And then because they are problem solving oriented, so they might as well right now about to launch their own new technology that will surpass
Mm,
whatever one that you feel fascinated about Cerebrum. Is it? Did I get it right?
Cerebras.
Yeah,
Yeah, Cerebras.
cerebral. Yeah. So they might be working to surpass it. They may have a technology that is equal to it, but they want to be able to prove to their customers that they are still that brand to be trusted.
Mm,
So, but as an investor, you don't play with emotions when you are investing. So you don't tie your emotions to a particular company. So you must always do your research around companies and their competitors.
mm,
And you can take position. There is no law anywhere in the world that stops you from taking position with NVIDIA and also taking position with Celebra. So long as you have done your research, you have understood their roadmap into the future, you have understood the value they want to create, and then you want to take a position, you can take a position by acquiring their shares of the business.
mm. Are there stocks, whether AI or tech stocks, that you wish you bought earlier? Like you were watching them grow, you were watching them rise, you didn't buy on time.
Yeah, there is this energy company known as Irish Energy. It was my friend that told me about the company anyways.
Irish Energy.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it was my friend that told me about the company. Uh, I was watching that. I was watching the price of that company go high, high and high and high. I did not do anything until when it went high. So
Oh man.
another one again that I regretted not buying earlier, even though I was aware of the company, was Palantir Technology. I could have
Oh, that's why
made,
you mentioned
yeah,
it.
yeah, I could have made a massive profit if I had opened a position at the time that I learned about Palantir Technology. Yeah, but
Mm,
like I told you, even though you are the facts on your table, it takes a level
mm.
of conviction to be able to plug in.
Yeah,
Do you understand?
conviction.
But
That's
the
the word.
facts are on your table. There are a lot of AI companies. There is Soundhood AI. The stock is a penny stock, but then it's highly volatile. It gives money like
Mm.
whim and it goes down like whim.
Yeah,
So
that sound hard one. I've actually followed that stock, and it just feels like it has a pump and dump season. It just keeps doing the same numbers in a cycle.
yes, that's the way it's gonna be happening there. So imagine like if you want to like invest in that company, what it will be doing to your mind. Because every time
You
you wake up, it goes up.
buy
Every
high
time you
blood
wake up,
pressure medication.
it goes down. So, so to all your viewers, my advice is always simple. You need to learn the basic of personal finance.
Mm,
Because by learning the basic of personal finance will help you to understand yourself and your behavior towards money, right?
mm,
Because if you don't understand yourself and your behavior towards money and you start investing, you might be overtaken by greed without knowing,
mm,
right? So by understanding
mm,
yourself is to understand the time horizon that you have in investing, whether you want to be short-term focused or you want to be long-term focused. Then if you
mm,
are long-term focused, you need to do a serious study about the business that you want to invest in. It's not a thing of studying the share price, studying the market capitalization. Nah, it's a thing of trying to study the business, the leadership, the principles, and the key drivers of that business um,
mm.
economy. you understand, of that business growth. Thank you very much. So it is very important. And now, when you talk about AI has even made it a whole lot easier. I have tried to use different AI products to do some kind of stock market research. And the one that I found very, very important to any investor, because we have made this conversation more technical and it might scare a lot of people who are just starting in investing, but investing is not a technical journey. So with Gemini, yeah, Gemini is good because when you ask Gemini questions about stock, when you ask Gemini to analyze a stock for you, it is going to lock in on different online platforms to generate information the AI is going to use to analyze that particular company for you in relation with their competitors.
I
Unlike
wanted to add at
ChatGPT.
this point, yeah, that Gemini has the advantage of having tons of data from Google scraping. If Google has a Google Finance platform that's totally dedicated to financial
Yeah,
analysis, so Gemini is plugged into that data. So it
yeah,
has even real-time data that it's giving you whenever you're asking, it's giving you fresh information. So Gemini has that advantage over ChatGPT.
yeah, exactly. Unless you are using ChatGPT paid version. But would you
Mm,
advise someone who is just starting out in investing to pay for ChatGPT? No,
yeah, and it'll be
because that
something like
person would
I'll be
want to
basically buying
explore
20.
free products.
Mhm.
And if the
Yes,
Google
I'll
AI is there
be
for you as a free product and able to give you such level of resources to look at, yeah, and even share link where it extracted all of this information from for you to do like a deeper study, then
mm,
it's something that I found very helpful for someone who is just starting. Like you don't need to know much right now. And all you just need to do is to know the basic and know how to use prompt engineering to generate
mm.
a good response from this AI. And then you are good to starting this investment journey.
And Gemini is very easy to use since you're going to be prompting in the same way you write. You just have to be very specific about what you want to get out of it to get the best
Exactly.
response. Okay, I
Exactly.
have one last question before I let you
Yeah.
go. Thank you so much for your time so far. What do you think about the AI bubble burst? Given that we all know that even at this stage, everything is running on hype. Most of these companies are not even profitable. In fact, as of aside from last 2 months, they started limiting the amount of queries. You now have a prompt limit per day. Claude used to have that. I think Claude was one of the first AI models that started that. With ChatGPT, it was more of like you paid for a subscription. This is the level you are at. If you pay for a higher tier, you're able to access more of their models. But with Claude, you knew that even if you're paying $75 in a month, once you use up all your credits, if you like use up all your monthly credits in a week, you're logged out and you have to wait. Sometimes they even have daily limit. And more of these AI models are more of these AI companies have started adopting that model because it's going to help them. The amount of money that users pay does not even scratch the surface of how much these AI companies are spending on hiring data center space, maintaining their models, paying their staff, all of the money that's sunk into training this AI and making it available for users, we're not paying enough for them. So they are still making a loss, even as these products are available for users to be using and paying for. And a lot of people are on the free tier, like me. So what do you think? How is the business landscape going to be like for people? Do you think that at some point they'll start declaring their losses and it will start eating into the shareholder value?
One thing I like about innovation is the more we are discovering problems, the more highly innovative companies are finding solutions to solve that problem, to still
Mm,
own the future. So
mm,
companies are on it. So, but if you are someone who follows the trend, or who is an investor, it might be very important that you pay attention to this space, the conversation that is going on in this space, because the company that find a solution to this challenge is also going to be part of the companies that are going to power the future. So imagine
mm.
if you position yourself in with companies that are going to find a solution in this space, you'll be making more money.
Like you said, any company that is able to hack it would be the winner in all of this. So Chisimdi, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, for the wonderful opportunity. Yeah, we're evolving. The business is evolving. The investment landscape is also evolving. So we have to stay in tune with what is the innovative space, to be able to know when and how we're going to lock in some profit. It's always about locking in some profit.
Yeah, we are capitalists at heart. At the end of the day,